Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday vlog where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. I want to welcome all you guys. If this is your first time here or you are a frequent visitor, to click on that watermark down there in the bottom right-hand corner to subscribe, along with clicking that notification bell so you guys will know when the next available vlog is available, along with additional content that's here on the channel. On Tuesday, March the 12th, Nancy Pelosi said that she would not seek impeachment for President Trump. Now, it's important to remember here that as Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi is third in line to succession of the presidency. So in other words, if something were to happen to the president and then something were to happen to the vice president, she would suddenly become the president of the United States. Now, I want to share from the article because it's always interesting to hear the way the individuals are quoted and what the media has to say. So she goes on to say here, "I'm not for impeachment," Pelosi said. "This is news. I'm going to give you some news right now because I haven't said this to any press person before. But since you asked, I've been thinking about this. Impeachment is so divisive to the country that unless there's something so compelling and overwhelming and bipartisan, I don't think we should go down that path because it divides the country and he's just not worth it." Now think about that. It's not divisive, yet she just said, there isn't enough evidence. There's nothing compelling enough, there's nothing overwhelming enough, and there's nothing bipartisan enough for her to say that she should pursue this. This is what they've been doing for the last 2 years. This is what we've been talking about. What do you think's been going on with the Mueller trial this whole time? Is to find some way to undermine the president, to criticize him, and of course the media and the detractors and all have been turning him into a one-dimensional villain. She also mentions here, the California Democrat also said Trump is ethically, intellectually, and curiously wise, unfit for office. So she doesn't want it to be divisive, yet she continues to undermine the president. Now, right now in the Democratic Party, there is a great rift. There is a division between individuals such as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and then there was even a controversy that came up this week with Christine Gillibrand's office, and of course she's running for president this in 2020. So it's interesting to see how this is kind of fracturing within the Democratic Party and how these types of things are dividing the party, because we've known pretty much since President Trump has been in office, we've talked about this before. Remember the carrot on the stick, always leading the constituents, always leading the detractors, always leading those who want to see Trump out of office by suggesting this whole time that he would be impeached and this is how he'd be removed and this, that, and the other. And now we're seeing from the Speaker of the House that it's just not going to happen. But nonetheless, we will continue to keep an eye on this because this is very curious. And nonetheless, I wanted to share that with you guys. This past weekend, a 30-year-old Arizona woman who was apparently trying to increase her social media score wanted to get a picture next to the Jaguar enclosure as the big cat was there minding its own business. Apparently what happened was she got close to the enclosure and the Jaguar was able to reach its paw through what appears to be these square chain link fencing, and you could see that just by its size that you could easily put your hand through it, and apparently the Jaguar was able to get its paws through it and then grab a hold of her arm and kind of pin her against it. And as the story says in the article, a woman that was also, or a bystander that was there at the zoo, was able to distract the Jaguar with a bottle of water and therefore perhaps saving her any additional distress and other problems. Now, I'm pretty sure that the big cat did some pretty serious damage to her arm because they were saying that when they were calling the paramedics, they said that her arm looked pretty bad. But nonetheless, guys, here we have another example of an individual perhaps risking their life for a selfie, but more importantly, I guess the sad part of this is that according to zoo officials, this Jaguar has done this before, and unfortunately, I guess because this was the second time, they had to euthanize the animal, which is unfortunate because here's another example of a human being who interacted with an animal, and it wasn't the animal's fault. And I'm not an animal activist and I'm not anti-zoo, but I've never quite grasped the desire of human beings and their hubris and in their arrogance to want to take animals out of their environment and then put them in cages and aquariums. That just doesn't register with me. Now, again, I'm not anti-zoo, and I'm not a super animal activist, but in my just my personal opinion, I want to go see my friends. I go to their house. If I want to go to a certain location, I travel there. If you want to see these animals in their environment, then go to where they live. I know it's not going to be always practical. It's not always going to be perfect. And again, it's just my opinion, but it's unfortunate that this animal had to be euthanized because of this woman's desire to get her social media score up. And that's just my opinion too anyway. She could be getting the picture for any number of different reasons. But nonetheless, I did want to share that to you because it was kind of an interesting story, social media wise, and kind of tragic at the same time nonetheless. But I will leave an article, I'll leave a link for you guys down in the published section below if you want to read more about it. Also on Tuesday, March the 12th, ripped from the headlines, Hollywood actors and coaches scam and scheme to get their kids and or themselves into America's elite colleges. Now, this falls kind of on the heels of what we talked about last week when President Trump was announced that he was going to sign executive orders to ensure that public universities enforced free speech. Now, of course, all the entertainment is within the article. Boston AP. 50 people, including Hollywood stars Felicity Huffman and Loughlin, were charged Tuesday in a scheme in which wealthy parents allegedly, the media actually used the word allegedly, bribed college coaches and other insiders to get their children into some of the nation's most elite schools. Now, as I understand it, the FBI went full FBI gear on Loughlin. That means that they suited up, they had the trucks and the vehicles and the whole thing, kind of very similar to what they did with Roger Stone, which is very interesting. Federal authorities called it the biggest college admission scam ever prosecuted by the U.S. Justice Department, with the parents accused of paying an estimated $25 million in bribes. Federal authorities call this the biggest college admission scam ever, right? So these parents are a catalog of wealth and privilege. Wow, that's not divisive at all. U.S. Attorney Andrew Loughlin said in announcing the results of an investigation codenamed Operation Varsity Blues. Wow, this is fascinating. The scandal is certain to inflame long-standing complaints that children of the wealthy and well-connected have the inside track in college admissions, sometimes through big, timely donations from their parents, and that privilege begets privilege. Now, I saw a CNN article on this where CNN was actually outlining exactly what they did. It's hard to say what exactly is going on with this whole entire thing because it's like, are they going after wealthy individuals? Did these particular Hollywood actors and individuals do something in particular that would warrant this? Because this type of thing goes on all the time. There isn't anything new here. I mean, parents pay other kids to take SAT scores or SAT tests and other things like that. So this isn't anything new here. I'm going to look into this further to kind of see what all is actually going on. At least 9 athletic coaches and 33 parents, many of them prominent in law, finance, or business, were among those charged. Dozens, including Huffman, were arrested by midday. It's just kind of bizarre to me. I'm going to look more into this article because I'm just thinking, what did these particular individuals do? What political issue is this all going on that would facilitate this? The coaches work at such schools as Yale, Stanford, Georgetown, Wake Forest, the University of Texas, the University of Southern California, and the University of California, Los Angeles. A former Yale soccer coach pleaded guilty and helped build the case against others. So you got a soccer coach here building a case against others. So I just found this incredibly fascinating that all of a sudden, kind of almost out of the blue, this becomes headline mainstream news. Like this was covered in like just about every legacy media, and that's just about every MSN, and even local news covered this. So there's obviously something more to this and behind the story than what we're being led on to be. And I just think it's kind of fascinating because it's like, okay, so Trump announced last week that he was going to make sure that public schools were going to enforce free speech, and yet now all of a sudden private schools are becoming a target. And it's just so curious because you never hear about big education, right? We hear about big government, we hear about big corporations, we hear about big pharma. We hear about all, this kind of conniving and other things that go on within government and within corporations and money and things like that. And yet here all of a sudden, it's more about the individuals than it is a university, but there's got to be something more to this. And I'm going to keep an eye on it and let you guys know. But if you want to see more about it, I'll leave the links down there in the published section below. And that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. I want to thank all you guys for your likes, shares, and comments. Your support for the channel is always appreciated. And I'd like to encourage you guys now, if you haven't already, to click on that channel icon appearing right there on the screen to subscribe, along with clicking that notification bell so you guys will know when the next Friday vlog is available, as well as additional content is here on the channel. And I will see you guys next Friday.